Welcome. I'm Carl Frederick, and I will be interviewing individuals for Kenosha Voices, an oral history project of the Kenosha County Historical Society in conjunction with Kenosha Community Media. I have worked in newspapers for more than 40 years as an editor and a reporter. 38 and a half of those years were at the Kenosha News. I am also a member of the Kenosha County Historical Society Board. We hope you enjoy these programs. I'm speaking with Ardis Mahone-Mosley, daughter of Arthur and Mary Lou Mahone. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
When did your family arrive in Kenosha?
Approximately in the late 1800s, my granny, Mary Lou Maxwell Elder, came here from Savannah, Georgia.
And that was when?
Oh, late 1800s, early 1900s.
Okay. And did she come directly here, or did she go by way of another city?
No, Grandma was from Savannah, Georgia.
Okay.
Yes.
And she came up here?
Came up here to Kenosha.
Okay.
Well, actually, she came to Waukegan. And then from Waukegan, she came to Kenosha.
Okay. And what did she do? Did she come with family?
She came by herself at first. And then while she was here, she was a housekeeper. She sold food to the teachers. And she helped found the first black church in Waukegan. And then she came to Kenosha, and she was one of the founding elders for the Second Baptist Church, which is now located on 32nd Avenue and 40th Street here in Kenosha, the oldest black church in Kenosha.
You said she sold food to teachers.
Yes.
How does one do that? Did you just made food and went to school?
No, Granny would, from the story that we were told, Granny would make the food and she would sell it down the cobblestone streets. So evidently, how she did it was in such a way, she was the walking food truck.
Ah, okay. Okay, and then she married after she had come here?
Yes, she married Mr. Elder from Waukegan,
Okay.
and they came to Kenosha. My granny already had 2 children, and it was Wilhelmina and Gertrude.
Okay. And one of them was your grandmother?
My grandma, Wilhelmina.
Okay. And what did your grandmother do here?
Well, you know, I can't give you a whole story in that because my grandmother, from my mother's story about her mom, my mom was 11 years old when her mom died. Okay, so it's really hard to piece together the story and the bits and pieces that we didn't get. But from my understanding, Granny had an illness, and it took her out. It wasn't, you know, by the hands of some man or hit by a car. She was ill.
Okay. Okay, and then your mother, Mary Lou,
Yes.
and your father, Arthur,
Yes.
okay, they went to school here as well?
No.
Okay.
Mom went to Bradford, and Dad graduated from school in Waukegan, Illinois.
Okay. And then they met how?
Okay. So, Mom went to a dance down at Great Lakes. She took the North Shore train and went to a dance, and she said she met this handsome man who happened to be my daddy. And that was the beginning.
And then after they were married, they settled in Kenosha.
Settled in Kenosha.
And the family they had was how big?
Oh, 6 boys and 2 girls.
Okay.
But see, in our family, because I was a young mother, my mother actually had 7 boys and 3 girls. So they raised my children.
Okay.
Okay, and it was never separated.
Okay, and where did you go to school?
I went to Weisskopf, and then I went to Washington Middle School, McKinley Middle School, and Bradford High School.
Okay. And as you were growing up, what did your parents do?
Okay, let's start with Pop. My father was a beautician barber, and he was a certified welder. He was in the Air Force. Mom was a homemaker first and foremost. She worked at Sears for years, Everybody knew Mommy because she worked at the catalog department. And then after that, she started working for the Urban League. She also worked for the Women and Infants Children's Program. And then her last job was with the Lincoln Neighborhood Center.
Okay. And what kind of
She's the
job?
director of programming, director of outreach.
And what did that involve?
The same thing I do.
Well, you took that from her.
Yes,
But
I
what did she started doing? What was it that she
My mother
did?
created programs that you would have thought that the city or the state would have had in place. So it was like food programs. Mom started housing programs, clothing programs, how to empowerment programs where she would get anybody actually to go take a class at Parkside and in particular Gateway. So Mom had her hands in a lot of programming that is now essential for everyday life. Things like banking. They had banking programs. They had sewing, clothing, gardens, just all types of programs.
Okay, and she continued that.
Until the day she died, basically.
Okay. And your dad, a certified welder, went on past that.
Yes, Daddy was doing, it was really, I come from a family where we all do the same thing, but we do it in different entities. My dad was an instructor at Gateway, and because he saw the need there was a large group of people in Kenosha that came here, and they had other trades. They just weren't here to pick beets and and corn and what have you. So what he did was he started teaching the students out at Gateway in terms of welding, because they came to the United States with trades. You just don't assume a man comes just to pick a vegetable, but they came with trades. So he helped with that. Dad started programs in our backyard for boxing for the kids that were out of hand in the neighborhood, karate. He had a small sewing class because he took a sewing class at Gateway, and he taught people how to sew. So my dad was a multifaceted gentleman.
Okay, and what did you learn from your mother, and what did you learn from your father?
Learning from Mom is a different story than learning from Dad. Mother was very spiritual, and she always believed that there's a higher power that negated how you will have a life in this world. But I learned that you should be generous, not up to a fault, know when to say no, and that you should help your fellow man. Don't give up. That you have a right as a human being in this world, not just this country, but in this world. And don't judge people hastily, because you never know what they can bring to the table. My dad was the same way, except my father was very hardcore. My father was a man because he was a boxer, he was a Golden Glove champion, and so he taught us the fine arts of self-defense. So we as kids grew up knowing we knew how to fight, but it wasn't for fight, it was protection for ourselves. So, with Daddy, he made sure that as a female, because I was the oldest, that everything that he taught the boys, he taught me. So I learned that I don't have to take no guff off of anyone. And I should learn always how to say no when it was necessary. And that I was brought into this world for all the same rights as everybody else. So basically that's what it was all about for my parents. They raised a strong group of kids. And we're still that strong group of kids. A little bit older, but strong.
So what was it like going to school in Kenosha? This would have been what time?
50s.
Okay.
So I thought school was great until I was called a nigger by a girl who happened to be white, who I thought was my friend. And she wanted to treat me less than a human being. And I wasn't going for that. Then that's when the reality hit. And the reality that I gave back to her hit her.
Now, was this a single kind of incident, or were there many of these?
Oh, there were many instances like that because we had to protect ourselves. You know, I don't know why, and I didn't care, and I still don't, but why people think that they can put people down because of their ethnicity or the color of their skin. And I guess I can go back to the moment when Martin Luther King, Dr. King was assassinated, and this red pickup truck rode at our front yard trying to scare us and saying what they were going to do to us, and they had guns. And so my dad pulled out his gun. You know, how dare you drive up in someone's yard and try to scare them, and you don't like them, and we shouldn't be here, and you don't deserve to live where you live, and nah. You know, and so what it all came out to was that people that met us grew to love us because we were just who we were, just human beings, trying to do the same thing you were doing, and let's live and have a happy life and have a family and get an education and buy a house or two or three or a car, two or three. We were here for the same reason you were here.
Okay, so who did you find during your school years that you could rely on?
Mr. McCarthy. Mr. James McCarthy was my English teacher in high school. Miss Bauer, she was my 6th grade teacher in elementary school. My parents, because they were the salvation, because there was also the discrimination from teachers to we as students. And so our parents always told us never be afraid to come to us. And we would go to them, and our parents would march right up to the school and have it out. And they, you know, it came out, 99% of the time, it came out to where we weren't wrong. We were being chastised unfairly. And the thing what came out of most of that was that because the Mahone children were smart. As we had spoken about before, there were 5 newspapers at our table every day. And we couldn't walk in our parents' home and think we were going to just talk about baseball. It wasn't about baseball, basketball. It was about current events and how the articles in the paper affected us as human beings. So there were a lot of times where teachers thought that we were just illiterate. You know, no thinking black kids. No. We were very, very, very much thinking black children.
Can you remember the newspapers that were in the house every day?
Sure, I think. Of course, the Kenosha News, because Howard Brown and my mom were good friends. But that was the only paper in Kenosha. The Chicago Tribune, the Sun-Times. Then as time went on, what's the one that's always on the airplane?
USA Today?
Yeah, that one. And then there might have been some other editorials, but I just remember those papers. Oh, the Chicago Defender.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, then you graduated from Bradford.
Yes.
Did your brothers and sister also graduate from Bradford?
Okay, yes and no. I and my brother Cersei graduated from Bradford. My brothers Malcolm and Bruce graduated from St. Joe's. My brother Tim and Jay graduated from St. Catherine's, and my sister graduated from Kemper Hall.
Okay. And then did everyone go on to college?
Yes, we all did.
Okay. And what kind of careers do your siblings have?
Okay. My youngest brother is a lobbyist. My brother Malcolm was in the psychiatry. My brother Cersei was into fashion and sports as a basketball coach. Let's see, what did Jay do? Jay was into sports as well. My sister is a writer, and she's a dramaturg for theaters out in New York. and a producer. I think that's about it.
Okay. And what did you do after school?
Well, I didn't graduate from college. I went to Marquette for 2.5 years, but I went into the social service field. I followed behind my mom.
Okay. And did you work with her before you actually went to
Oh,
college?
yes. We all worked with mom in terms of social service field, because there were days we would have to go to the Lincoln Center or either over to one of the places where she was working at, and we'd have to, the energy program, we worked with mom. That was the first time I was ever introduced into society. We were part of that, filling out forms. The cheese and food giveaway, we were part of that. We were part of the program that mom set up for Christmas baskets for families. We were part of the program where we were collecting clothing for families. So that was just part of who we were. You know, people would come to the house and ask mom, Miss Mahone, do you have any food? Of course, we always had food on the stove because you can have a large family, but we knew that they were looking for commodities. So she told me to meet her at the office the next day.
Okay. And then your first paying job, if you will, what was?
Oh, my first paying job, that was working at a retail store.
Okay.
It was nothing to do with that.
Okay. And then from there you?
And my first paying job was at Barton's.
Okay.
Okay.
And then you went on, and the next job was what?
Social services, and then I left and moved to Atlanta, and I was doing that there. And then I came back home and just jumped into it. I was working for Boys and Girls Club. After the Boys and Girls Club, I started working for Kenosha Unified School District, and I've been with them ever since.
Okay. When did you start working with Kenosha Unified?
In '99.
99?
Yes.
And what was your job?
A parent-teacher liaison.
What is a parent-teacher liaison?
I am the go-between between the parents, the student, and the administrators and the teachers. So I pull, you know, many times we as parents figure our children do no wrong, and the teacher can't speak to mom because mom or dad is so upset because they think we're doing wrong and the story isn't the whole truth. I and persons like myself are ones that pull that truth together so everyone can do what's supposed to be done with this child.
So you're in the middle.
Yes.
Dragging the ends to the middle.
Yes.
Okay, for the benefit of the child.
Not necessarily the child.
Okay.
Because what I find out with the liaison, the benefit is from the teacher so they can do their job and feel good about it. So the parent can continue to parent and do a good job, and for the child to get an education.
Okay, and you've been doing that now for 24 years?
Actually 25, because I was doing the same thing when I was working for Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And are you the only parent-teacher liaison in the district?
I don't think so. I know I was the only one for a very long time, okay, because at that time when I got that position, Peg Midori was the principal. When she found out that the Boys and Girls Club had said, well, Ardis, we have to let you go, we have to lay you off, and Peg said something to the fact, the devil's a lie, I need you here. And so I started working, well, I just continued working with a crew of folks that were just magnificent. It was Officer Willie Hamilton, Antoinette Tofree, Shebaniah Muhammad, Dennis Bedford, Gary Vargas. I believe, and I think others believe, that we were a crew of minorities that put together the liaison phrase for Kenosha Unified School District, because we had what it took to walk into homes to talk to parents, and parents believed us. Even if they didn't like us, they believed us. They believed in the fact that we could help them help their kids, or either help them help themselves with their families.
Okay. And you work closely with students as well as bridging the parent-teacher relationship.
Oh yes, in order for me to get to the parent, I have to work with the child. And with the students, being at Lincoln Middle School has taught me that I've been there, I have a foundation there, The neighborhood knows Miss Ardis is there. They know what Miss Ardis can help you do. They know what Miss Ardis won't do. And they know I'm honest with them. Because if your child is acting out of order and you want to blame the teacher, I have to explain to you, your child is out of order and not learning what you're expecting them to learn. And they're disrespectful, and they're this, they're that, or they're great kids, either or. But I have no problems telling the parent or the teacher, you know, that there might be some issues here or there.
Okay, and how do you approach the students that you deal with? What do you hope that they get from you in your job?
That you are great as a human being. Quit selling yourself short. Take all that you were born with and use it to the best of your ability. No one's asking you for A's, but we are asking you for your best. That you need to start loving yourself more. Your behavior, whether it's good or bad, has to improve so you can be the best that you can be. If you have some issues, come and talk to someone about it, because they're not your issues by yourself. Our kids have to learn to trust other people. They have to learn how to trust themselves and believe in themselves.
Okay, and you said you worked with several others at Lincoln to come up with this liaison approach.
Yes.
And each of them worked with different groups of people.
We all worked with the whole entire school and the city. See,
Right.
one thing that we took from the Boys and Girls Club, because the Boys and Girls Club was citywide. And sometimes they took us and put us in the schools because there were schools that needed more attention. But because we were citywide, we got to know everyone and they got to know us. So behind having that crew, then I walk into Lincoln and I've got this beautiful crew of counselors. Dan Bushman, Aaron Waynes, Kay Bladorn. I mean, they were just beautiful people. And then the teachers, when they saw what we were capable of doing so they could do their job, it was a piece of cake. And the thing, you know, you run into kids that do this and do that, and you have upsets. But when you see at the end of a day or end of a week that it's success, when you see a child that will run up to you and say thank you, instead of telling you to kiss their elbow, when you see a parent who would normally be hostile that says, you helped me and I thank you so very much. When I see some of those same parents and those same students today, all is well with my soul.
Okay, and is there a way that you bring students together at Lincoln yourself?
Well, I have a group called Dream Girls.
And what is that?
Our Dream Girls is a group of girls. It started out very small, but these little young ladies are phenomenal. They're just phenomenal because they wanted something and they didn't know how to get it. And I wanted to give it to them and I wanted to make sure they had what they wanted. So it's an empowerment group for girls and all ethnicities. And these girls showed, it went from 4 girls to 20. And we even were showcased in the Kenosha newspaper, the She magazine. And for us to have that kind of light at Lincoln Middle School, because remind you, Lincoln Middle School had a bad rap. It was supposed to be the hood school, and it's never been a hood school. It's been a very, very strong, powerful school that was in a neighborhood, and it encompassed and embraced all these children of different backgrounds. And I had girls from everywhere, and they became the leaders. These girls are so strong that they're the leaders at our school. And being a leader at Lincoln is no small job. You have to be outspoken, you have to be forthright. The girls all want to go to college or go to a technical school, because I let the kids know that it's not always about college for you. You know, let's give Gateway its credit. You know, you could go to Gateway and probably make more money coming out with a degree than you would going to a 4-year college. And you can do it all. So we'll meet once a week, and it's just a great organization.
And what does this group do as an outreach? I mean, because of who these girls are, they get together with other girls. Mm-hmm. So what is it that they do as, like I say, an outreach instead of building? You're getting empowered themselves and mm-hmm. understanding their future and what it means to be a human being. How does that transcend beyond them outward?
Well, you have to understand that the outreach came to them because they've received outreach before. So a lot of them, their parents would say, "Mr. Ardis, can you help do such and such? Can we get some food?" Yeah, I can help you get some food, but I need for you to take a class, and you'll have to take this class for so many weeks, but it will give you more power than what you have now. You will be able to do more with your life. So my girls, what they would do is they'll do fundraisers in terms of getting clothing, food baskets. For years they put on the Christmas, we called it our annual Christmas store, which is held in the library. They would decorate the library. We'd get all these gifts donated, but all these gifts went to our students and their families. One thing we told them, you can't get anything for you have to get something for everybody in your family. So we were, in such a way, we were teaching our children that our students at Lincoln, it's better to give than to receive. So mom, dad, granny, auntie, uncle, brother, sister. So that's part of it right there. Also, they made baskets for nursing homes. And there were a couple times we went to the nursing homes ourselves. It's little things like that they would do, so.
You've been doing this, again, for almost 25 years. Where do you get the satisfaction, the gratification, the feeling that it's all worth it? Some of these people you knew early on, mm-hmm. and they have now gone on.
Yes.
And you see results from girls who have been there before, and they come back to you. Do you see any of that?
I walk in stores or wherever I may be, and there are people that say thank you. But I can drive down the street and wonder, why are the same conditions going on now that were going on when we were putting these groups together? There's no reason there should be hungry people in the United States. There's no reason why people should be sleeping on the streets. There's no reason. There's no reason for these children to be killing each other and other people. There's just no reason. Life is too great. Life is too grand. The things that life gives us have more to give us than death. And if it's death, it's by natural death. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
And I don't, when feeding children, feeding families, feeding people, that's just what you do.
And where does that start? What's the first thing you try to instill into a student you meet with?
That if everybody's not going to give you everything you want, you have to work for some of this. I'm not supposed to give you anything. We can work together and you can have more. But our children nowadays think that, well, I'm entitled. You are not entitled. How do you think you got to where you're at? It wasn't entitlement. We had to work. You had to have respect for people. Our children don't have respect. They don't have respect for themselves. So how are they going to have respect for others? They speak to their parents as if they're what the bird left on the tree. How do you do that? Nothing good is going to come out of that. You know, I don't understand how, I understand there's mental health, but everything isn't because of mental health.
So you're telling me that it starts with respect, and that's what you
Yes.
expect these students learn.
No, I
Respect.
demand, I don't expect,
Okay.
I demand. You can't talk to me if you disrespect me. I tell kids all the time, don't say nothing to me. You just disrespected me, get out my office. No. Well, Miss, no, you will not disrespect me.
But you want them to learn
And they learn because,
self-respect.
yes, the self-respect and the disrespect are all tied in together. If you don't respect yourself, you're disrespecting yourself. Because how can you expect anybody else to respect you? You know, I can tell a child, turn around, walk out that door, and they come back, I'm sorry. Okay, let's talk. And then we start this thing about, how can you expect me to respect you when you don't want to respect yourself? Well, and you get into this conversation, and all of a sudden you start learning why there is that disrespect for themselves. And then you start building, taking it apart and putting it back together. And the next thing you know, you have kids walking up to you, giving you hugs. Because they tell you at school you're not supposed to put your hands on children or hug them. No, kids want hugs. When they love and respect you, they walk up to you and give you hugs and say thank you.
And in your job, you visit homes?
Oh yes, that's necessary. It is very necessary. You know, sometimes you have to go see where where all these things are taking place. And once you walk in, you're like, oh. You have a better idea of why one of the problems may be what they are. I had a call the other day for someone because they were looking for funding to pay their rent. And we had a conversation, and I found out some things that you don't have to be like this. But this is you're the reason why this is like it is. No one else. And I'm sorry, Miss Ardis. I'm like, yeah, I know, but you know, it's got to be fixed. Because if the kids are wondering, they hear the parents tell them they're going to be evicted. That affects how things go at school. They're angry, they're sad, they lie to you when they shouldn't be lying to you because you want to help them. Then you hear about a parent being arrested for whatever, then you have to deal with that. But home visits for me were always, Mom used to take me on home visits. That was nothing new. Nothing new at all. And you see some families, you coming by? No, I can't come by today, you know, but you coming by? You know. And a home visit is a real good prescription of helping some things heal, because you really do find out whether or not they have clothing, whether or not the house is halfway clean or however way clean it's supposed to be. If they have dogs and the dogs have the run of the house when they don't need any pets, you know. If grandma's living there and you only have enough beds for 2 people, but you've got 6 people, so that means 4 of them are laying on the floor, sleeping on the floor. So how can you make that a better space? Not just physical space, but mind space. Yeah.
Do you make referrals to social service agencies?
Oh,
or
all
is
the
this,
time.
okay.
All the time. That's nothing. Without social service, it'd be a little bit difficult. But what you're going to find out, social service already has them on their dockets, mm-hmm. And they'll just say, okay, let's tie this in and see what we could do to make it better.
How do you approach students today as to what they should think about, what their futures hold? Not just a single focus, but actually their growth and how to take care of themselves for their entire adult life.
Well, first of all, when they come There's just a handful, but I have to tell them, you can't even read, write, or count. So how are you going to sit up here and cuss somebody out? You can't fill out a form. So how can you sit here and be like you're being? What do you want to do when you grow up? I want this. So how do you think you're going to get it? I'm going to, no, you're not. No, you're not. Well, I can play ball. No, you can't. What happens if you break your foot? And that bone that you break in your foot will not allow you to spin and do your little jump. You know, there are only so many people that are going to make $30 billion a year playing ball. Yeah, but I can, no, dope will get you dead, okay? So, my girls, bless their hearts, they don't want to sell dope. They want to be doctors and lawyers. And they want to be plumbers. And what I found out was working very well was that the girls would tell the boys about what they wanted to do. We had a session where we had approximately 6 boys, I think there were like 7 or 8 girls, and these girls ate them alive because they were telling them, I can make more money than you can. And they were very raw about their conversation, which I allow. But they told them, I can make all this money when I graduate from Gateway. Oh, Gateway. Do you know what Gateway can offer me that you can't? And so we were talking about relationships, and some of the boys left Lincoln, went to high school, went to Gateway. And for me, for what the Mahone Fund does, you know, we go to high schools and ask the children about filling out scholarships, applications for scholarships, and we find out that a couple of these kids were the kids I had at Lincoln. And all they can say is, thank you, Miss Ardis. Oh, you're welcome. Because now this child is making like $40,000 a year being an electrician. But he wanted to hustle drugs when he was at Lincoln.
And what do you think the problem today is with students and parents about taking hold of their own responsibilities? What are they doing that holds them back? You mentioned entitlement before.
Right. See, if I would have stood there and talked crazy to my parents, I'd be wearing false teeth. And then for some man to become the president of the United States and tell you you can't put your hands on your child, but your child's trying to kick your butt, how dare you? My father and my mom, bless their heart, my granny, everybody, you know, they didn't beat us, but they put the fear of God in us that try it if you want to. You know, I mean, I don't understand. I don't know what to say, except if you're going to have a baby, you need to be ready to discipline that child in such a way so that child can grow up and have a good life. Everybody makes mistakes.
But it sounds like you're saying no excuses.
Oh, you have to have an excuse, but you let them make an excuse when they're young. You don't let them make an excuse when they're old enough to tell you shut up. How dare you tell me to shut up? No, you shut up. Don't tell me to shut up. Because I ask kids all the time when they're disrespectful, does your mother like you? What do you mean by that? I said, well, the way you talk. Your mom can't like you. Then you find out the kid doesn't even talk like that at home, but they talk like that outside the home.
So, what's your future?
Retire. Retire from KUSD and go to the Mary Lou and Arthur F. Mahone Fund and put all of my work into that and work with my brother Tim, because he's a CEO, and do what we can to get our kids into college and get them educated, to get families stronger, so that parents can be happy. Get our kids educated and feel good about getting an education. Going to school should be fun. And you don't have to go to a 4-year university. You can go anywhere, any of these schools out here that are going to extend and empower you to make money to pay for your housing, your clothing, your food, your entertainment, and to also help you understand there are some reasons why lives are taken, but not for the reason you guys are doing it. You know, but that's what I plan on doing. And that's what I do right now, because the Mahone Fund is all about empowering youth. 365 scholarships to date of children going to school all over. Gateway, I mean, I just love Gateway because not everybody's supposed to be a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor, you know? And it's just a beautiful thing. So that's what I'm gonna do. And have fun at it too. What you gonna do?
More of this.
Okay.
Thank you for talking with me today.
Thank you, my friend.